It's June, this is Bartlesville, and that has to mean the OK Mozart Festival. OK Mozart is a regional cultural festival with a national reputation, and Focus on Art is delighted to be part of that festival today. We'll be focusing on the Bartlesville Museum contribution to the festival, which is a wonderful exhibit of paintings by the Oklahoma Society of Impressionists. I'm Barbara Cohenauer. Please join us. Both the Bartlesville Museum and the Oklahoma Society of Impressionists have been guests for Focus on Art before, so it's always a pleasure to be back among old friends. Today, Gail Poole's my guest. Hi, Gail. Welcome to Focus on Art. Gail is one of the artists that will be exhibiting here at the museum and is a member of the Oklahoma Society of Impressionists group, and he's going to be showing us through this particular exhibit. Gail, I'd like to begin, though, by asking our guests to tell us just a little bit about themselves.
Golly, I don't know where to start. I was a commercial artist for years after going to the University of Oklahoma, and I just got tired of being a commercial artist and decided to be a painter. And so for about the last 18 years I've been painting full-time, and I live in Norman, Oklahoma. I have a daughter there that's majoring in drama at the university, and that's pretty much it.
Well, that's a good introduction. While we're talking about introductions, let's talk about the Oklahoma Society of Impressionists for just a minute, too.
Great. The Society is a terrific organization in that it's one of the few organizations that's kind of held together, thanks in large part to our president, Jodi Ellis. Jodi is a real organizer and go-getter, and someone once said that getting artists together is kind of like trying to herd buffalo. But Jodi does a pretty good job of it. Anyway, it's an organization that through the joint efforts of all of us, we're able to get more shows put together, such as this show, and to exhibit in more places with people who paint kind of in the same vein. And it's a real compatible bunch of people, and it's a thoroughly enjoyable thing. We just finished a trip out to the Oklahoma Panhandle where we went out there and painted and went around some Indian hieroglyphs and so on. And we've been studying those all over the state, getting ready for a show about the Indians in Oklahoma. And that will be upcoming. I don't know exactly what the date is, but anyway.
Great. Well, it sounds like you have a good time as well as have an opportunity to do what you do professionally.
Oh, you bet. I keep waking up every day and thinking it's a ripoff because I get paid for doing what I love to do. So
Great. Well, and you know, I think when we think about Impressionism, there's probably not a style of painting in the whole history of Western man that enjoys a greater popularity. People love Impressionism, and I think it's an art style that you not only enjoy painting, but we as the viewing audience really enjoy looking at.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's very hard to define Impressionism. You ask 10 different artists and you'll get 10 different answers as what Impressionism is. Some people seem to associate with the technique, the breakup of the brush stroke. Other people will say it's the palette, the colors that the artist uses. The others, there's just a bunch of different definitions of it. But primarily, it is work that is done not in the old academic standard of very carefully rendering everything, but more or less quickly putting things down on canvas, your impression of how something appears without just really standing there and studying it.
Well, I think probably the best way we can explain it is show some examples. Now, this show is set up so that we see each artist, a group of works by each artist.
Correct.
And so who are we going to see first?
Carla Perry.
Okay, well, let's walk over here and take a look at Carla's work.
This little painting here is called A Green Glade. it pretty much typifies, I think, what Carla does with her work. She makes very crisp, definite brush strokes and colors, and just gets a magnificent look to her work. She seems to know exactly what she's going to do when she starts a painting, or what she's going to end up with. You'll notice all these beautiful little brush strokes of blues and purples juxtaposed next to the, and I hate the word juxtaposed to sound like a New York art gallery, juxtaposed against these greens and yellows and reds, browns, and subtle little oranges. They're just beautiful, and I think Carla's one of my favorite painters. She's just a terrific artist.
Well, it's a wonderful, fresh feel to that. She does just a great job. I agree with you.
Oh yeah, it's very fresh, and it's just fun to look at. Now, even on her large paintings, such as this one here called, what is that, Canadian Mist, she's kept the same freshness, the same bold strokes, the same editing. She eliminates everything that's not necessary in a painting. And that, just like in writing a story, that's one of the most important things I think that an artist can do, is to take out and eliminate those things that are not necessary to tell you what you need to see or to make her statement. And she's got very beautiful colors, crisp shorthand type notes that she's made, and I just think they're beautiful. And even over here on this next one, called this Basket of Spring, she's gone just completely to another area here now with all these vivid, bright colors. I don't know how she keeps them so clean. They're fresh. When I get all these colors on my palette, I have a tendency to get them all mixed up together and end up with a lot of grays, but Carla gets some wonderful, clean brush strokes and colors working for her, and I just think she's a terrific artist.
I think it's a very nice contrast between this wonderfully vibrant one and the very gray, subdued one before, which shows us really the versatility of this particular artist too.
I don't know if there's anything to the artist painting whatever kind of mood they're in, but she's done a wonderful job with showing a contrast in how she works, going from the, like you say, from the gray painting to the extremely brilliant, bright, vibrant painting.
Right. Okay, who do we have next down here?
Bert Hands. Bert is from Bethany, Oklahoma, which is a suburb of Oklahoma City for anyone that doesn't know. But this one right here is one of his better ones that I have seen in a good while. And Bert, I say this about all the artists, I think, but Bert is one of my favorite painters too. Bert is a purist. He is the Monet type artist that is not going to sell out at any price. He's going to do what he thinks is best and what suits him. And he's really starting to come into his own. He's selling well. He's doing some great work. These chamisa here, I think, are just beautiful. The arrangement of the whole thing is very simple. Just taking a simple chamisa bush and working all these wonderful colors in here. That you notice these little magentas and blues next to the, I won't use the juxtaposition word again here,
okay,
but right next to the yellows and the oranges, and the distance here getting into the blues and the mountains and so on. And there's a wonderful surface quality here to the painting that is really difficult, I'm sure, to see on television. But it shows the control of the brush strokes and things he has, and that's one thing I'm kind of hung up on, is surface quality of a painting. These other paintings of Bert's are equally well done. The brightness of these pink azaleas, and going on over here to, Bert only had 3 paintings to contribute to the show. I guess he's been selling extremely well. But this early morning workout here, painting of his, which is kind of reminiscent maybe of Monet.
Right, or maybe even a Degas.
A Degas, which is true. Very good.
Okay, and next is Joan Mirren.
Joan is a dear friend of mine, and I shouldn't say that. She got me into doing all of this, and I called her up the other day and told her what a traitor she was, because I would much rather be painting, thank you. But Joan has studied and worked so hard and has done so well, and it just really right now is just booming. Her talent and ability are wonderful. And you can see in these little paintings here the bright, crisp, refreshing color notes that she makes. Going over here to this one where she has just kept it so simple and showing the different greens in the trees handled so delicately and yet almost abstractly. They're just hints that they are trees.
The composition on that is outstanding.
Oh, it is. I think it's wonderful. And going over here to her probably western Oklahoma cattle, and she travels so much. She does seems to go everywhere. I've never seen anyone who can crowd more into a day, into a week, into a month than she can. She just recently got back from Oregon, and this is one of her little paintings that she did out there. And she's just a terrific artist.
I guess we'll have to go around the corner here to pick up our next artist. This artist is Jerry McWilliams.
Yes, Jerry's from a great little town down around called Bochito. It's somewhere down around Tishomingo, down the southern part of the state, Duncan, somewhere down in there. I don't know. Jerry is an outstanding artist also. Jerry does some beautiful work, especially landscapes. As a matter of fact, I don't think I've seen him do anything other than landscapes. When we were out in western Oklahoma, though, he's probably the least prepared person I've ever seen in my life for camping out. There are no motel rooms or anything out in Keaton, Oklahoma. And he shows up with a loaf of bread, no bedding, nothing to sleep in, no jacket or anything, and it's cold at nights out there, and we're all having to loan him stuff. But anyway, Jerry does a great job of painting out of doors. Anyway, this is one of his small little landscapes. It's got all kinds of subtle little colors working in it. The shadows working against the snow and the little road going up through the trees. And I think it's beautiful. This next one here is called Spring Meadow and Woods. I don't know exactly what kind of flowers those are that he has working there. Do you have any idea what?
I don't have an idea,
Okay.
but they're certainly beautiful.
I'm sure they're probably indigenous to down the southern part of the state. And there's a beautiful little light going across here that shows the wonderful, just a little bit of sunlight coming through looks like overcast clouds. And back here with all of his green trees next to the reds and so on. Anyway, it's really a nice painting.
Great. I think that the play of the colors in the sky, too, are very interesting with those yellows and oranges against these very cool things down here, too. It's an interesting kind of contrast in color.
That's true, and the little road takes you right on back through the painting, and it's really nice.
Nice composition. Okay, now, who's next?
Our next artist is Claudia Doyle. She's a Tulsa artist, and she just knocks you over with color. You can see in the still life that she's got a wonderful feel for design and arrangement and the placement of color. She's working large lately. She's got a greenhouse study here with just a real vibrant use of colors. Every color in the rainbow, I think, is here. She's got her brilliant greens or pinks or purples or yellows, and she's worked all of those colors all throughout her painting to achieve a real unity to her works.
And to use another one of those New York art gallery terms, I think you see a real bravura brushstroke with her. These big, broad, really, you can look at that and just almost feel her throwing that paint onto the canvas.
And I think that pretty much typifies Claudia's personality. She's just get out there and get with it sort of person. She was out in western Oklahoma painting with us. And, it was kind of funny. She had never camped out in her life, she said, and that was quite an experience for her. But this is one of her scenes from, I assume they're in Taos. It looks like Taos, or, it says Chiripada. Sorry, I'm not familiar with just where in New Mexico that is, but I would judge by the adobe wall that that's where it is. But again, she's got the really bold bravura brush strokes.
Oh, you like that word too?
I'll use it. You know what the heck, anything that'll help me get through all of this sort of thing. Anyway, she's doing one of her few people paintings that I've seen her do. Maybe she does a lot more than I'm aware of, but these obviously are some Indians from out around New Mexico, and again, another New Mexico scene. Claudia is an outstanding artist and a great contribution to our organization.
Great.
These next paintings here, we've just got two of them from Leonard Wren, another Tulsa artist. Leonard loves to paint huge, you know, and a painting of this size intimidates many artists, me being one of them. But he has really done a beautiful job of creating the looseness like you've never seen and still getting a very cohesive painting. He's underpainted with some brilliant pinks or alizarin crimson underneath all through the whole painting, and then he's painted over that with all his other colors and still letting that pink underpainting show through all throughout the painting, and it does a lot towards tying the whole painting together. It gives it a very nice cohesive feeling.
Just the whole idea of using pink as a color for underpainting is revolutionary almost.
Yeah, really, no kidding.
You have to be a brave person to start out with that color, and yet it works so beautifully for him in the finished work.
I don't know if that says anything about Leonard's personality or not, but you know, we'll go with the pink anyway. This next one here is Azalea Path. I'm not much of a flower person, knowing the names of flowers, but I would assume that these are azaleas. Again, painted in the very loose, free and easy brush strokes, with letting the underpainting show, although he doesn't have, well, I guess maybe he does have a lot of the pinks showing underneath all the way through it also. And he's used heavy paints in some areas, such as here, and in others it's just a very light skimming the surface with the paints. But it really creates the feeling of light, which supposedly is what one of the things that Impressionism is all about, is painting the light that is reflected from all the things and objects that are in front of the artist.
Well, you know, when you look at this particular painting, I think it does call to mind things done by artists that we think of as traditional Impressionists. This has very much the feel of a Renoir, I think.
Yes, I agree with you.
And I think it's interesting how that style of applying the paint worked well in the last part of the 19th century, and it's still working very well here at the end of the 20th century to create just wonderfully warm, friendly works of art. I mean, you would have to try hard not to like this painting.
I agree with you.
And I think that's very typical of the paintings by this whole group of artists.
Gary Moeller is our next artist. Gary lives at Claremore, and he's a professor there. I think you're familiar with him.
Yes, matter of fact, Gary's my boss, so yes, I do know Gary very well. And not only is Gary a wonderful teacher at Rogers State College, he's also a wonderful artist and an awfully nice guy, Gail. So I get to say all those things about him.
Just because he signs your paycheck, you say all those things, right?
Absolutely.
Gary was out in western Oklahoma, and I think this is probably one of the paintings that he did as a result of being out there. He didn't paint this large on location, but now you were talking about Renoir a while ago. Gary's colors remind me of Renoir. They're very ethereal, is that the word?
Sounds like a good word to me.
Okay, it does to me too. But he gets all these magnificent colors working all throughout the painting, and it's just a very nebulous sort of thing. And he gets a very nice surface quality working with it. He does the same thing over here in this, what is it called, Blue Mirage, where you see this mirage, which I think we've all seen before as we're going down the highway, and we see the shimmering light coming up off the highway in the heat of the day. And again, he's got all these wonderful colors working all throughout the painting into his clouds. He does it over here, and speaking of clouds, where we're going into the clouds, which is strictly a cloud painting. And he has, again, all of his colors working there, and he's does an outstanding job. This is primarily a watercolor, I do believe. Yeah, it is. It looks like a watercolor. And over with the next one here with the trees and the rocks, that again, I think this was inspired by our trip to western Oklahoma with all of the rocks and trees and all the colors working in it. It's pretty much of a, according to him there, is a mixed media painting, but extremely successful, I think.
Absolutely. Wonderful painting. And another good friend of mine's hanging right next here to Gary, and that is Wanda Brown.
Yeah, Wanda is a terrific artist. She does, I say that about all of us. Of course, I'm sold on all of our works. She does some outstanding pastels and oils. I particularly like, I think her pastels are exceptional, but I really love the surface quality that I was talking about earlier with her oils, where she gets all of these great textures and things working, and the real richness of color by putting all these reds in the middle of these warm greens, cool greens. And this with the lady hanging the clothes out there makes some really interesting color notes. And moving on over here to the woods, where she's been very, what's the word? She just, everything is slightly out of focus, nebulous, but a wonderful impression of the woods, deep into the woods, with the light playing against the leaves and the sky. And just beautiful colors, and again, a wonderful surface texture, which I really like. Another one here with the little girl sitting beside the lake or pond, and again, achieving all those wonderful things that she achieves in the others that we were just looking at. And we go on over here to Jodi Ellison's works. Jodi really demonstrates all the sides of her personality, I think, in these paintings, where there's just a vibrance of strokes and colors and temperature, with all of your beautiful reds and whites and yellows and blues all working against one another. And then there's just a very much of a lightness, which I think Jodi is just a go-getter. You know, she's our president,
right? And
she arranges all these shows, and how she finds time to paint and do all of this, I don't know. We gripe at her a lot and say, Jodi, you're overloading us, you know, more than we can produce. But this painting next to it here is such a contrast to this one we just looked at. This painting here with all the bright colors and the bold strokes and everything, and yet it's more of a gray painting. Maybe this is one of those times when she's worried about all of us in the organization getting our stuff to her for another show or not. But Jodi does a lot of still lives and does a wonderful job with them. This is a beautiful painting here, very impressionistic, with the purples and the reds and the greens again.
And once again, I think those big, bold brush strokes just really tell us a lot about her personality.
Oh yeah, she's just a real bubbly personality.
Absolutely.
And of course, another one here with Mecca and the Taos wildflowers in late afternoon. And I think all of us that go out there and make our pilgrimage every year, we're familiar with this scene, and we've painted it ourselves probably at least 8 or 10 times.
And of course, the artist we have on this wall, Gail, is one of my very favorites, and that's Gail Poole. I bet he's one of your favorites too.
Yeah, definitely one of my favorites.
Okay, I think we might begin, as we're looking at your paintings, on kind of a wide shot, and let our viewers note that we have a painting here that's very loose, almost non-objective in handling, sitting right next to a painting that's very tight and realistic. And I think if you compare these two, we see the one thing that I think of you, or think about your paintings, first of all, when I think about you, Gail, and that is that you're extremely versatile. That you one day are doing one thing, and another day you can do something that has a very different feel. Would you agree with that?
Oh, I think so. I take a lot of pride in trying to study all phases of art, the different techniques that artists use, and just experimenting with them. I find it very difficult to fall into one school of art, even as subject matter. I enjoy doing landscapes, people, still lifes, all of them. I think pretty much over here, dealing with one of my favorite parts of the country, of the world, I think, is up around Taos. And as we were talking a little bit earlier, the clouds going across a valley out there, looking out across it, and it drives artists kind of crazy because you paint something in the shade of the cloud, and then the cloud moves away, and it's bright, and you've either got to wait for another cloud or change your colors, one of the two. But I really enjoy doing landscapes and still lifes.
I just love this painting too, from just a very personal reason. I was in the area last summer with my daughter, and we had some of those wonderful days that I think you find in northern New Mexico, where it mostly rains during the day and then the sun kind of peeks out, and you've been able to capture the feeling. I looked at this painting and I could just really recall how I felt on that particular day.
Well, thank you, Barbara.
So I think this is just outstanding.
I really enjoyed doing it. Thank you. Of course, this is an Oklahoma landscape with a real brilliant green. It almost seems exaggerated, but it was really that way. It was in the fall or winter, with the winter wheat showing back through all of the dead trees and everything. And going into the still lifes, again, I attempt to get the surface quality that I was talking about earlier with the other artists, and building up some texture with the paints as well as the colors. And color is something that I got stung with very early on when I was studying with Dick Getz back when he was living in Oklahoma City before he moved to New York. And this again over here is going up around Taos and painting entirely with, experimenting with just painting entirely with a palette knife. There's no brush strokes at all to the painting. And, you know, we were talking about Leonard Wren a little bit earlier in painting with the pink underneath. This one I've painted with the brilliant alizarin crimson underneath, but I didn't leave as much of it showing, just bits and pieces every once in a while.
Well, this is a wonderful painting, and I love the abstract quality to this. I bet you had a great time doing this.
Oh, I did, yeah. I think I stayed in the same spot and painted it about 3 different times, yeah.
Looks like you almost had planned initially. Was this the 3rd one in the series? You kind of knew exactly where you were going with that?
I tell you the truth. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you get a little too contrived, or at least I do when I do that or attempt to do it.
You know, a lot of people working with that palette knife get things muddy, and you get one color under another. But this is so fresh.
Yeah.
That you really seem to be very confident there.
I think I stay much fresher when I'm working with a palette knife because I don't wash my brush out as often as I should.
Okay.
And this, of course, is a still life using the watermelons and the heavy texture of paint and the brass samovar. I don't even remember. I think these were pears, if I'm not mistaken. But again, it's just trying to get a taste of everything, and I spend my life doing what I enjoy doing, and every once in a while I'll sell a painting, and so I feel like I can look forward to doing that for the rest of my life and thoroughly enjoy my life.
Great. Well, I can look at this painting and I can really see you enjoying almost enjoying the act of painting in just the way you put things down on the surface here. Wonderful brush strokes, and of course this orange against these pinkish reds over here. Yeah. Magnificent coloration.
It was one of those rare times. They say it takes 2 artists to do a painting, one to paint it and one to take it away from him when he's through with it.
I see.
And so, fortunately, maybe there was someone around to take it away from me when I was through with it.
Okay, well, this is a wonderful group of painting scale, and certainly a major contribution to this show. I'd really like to thank you for being with us today. We enjoyed having you for Focus on Art. We'll look forward to having you back again. And once again, we really enjoyed the Oklahoma Society of Impressionists.
Thank you for having us.
For those of you at home, we appreciate your being with us, as always, for Focus on Art, and we'll look forward to having you back again.